Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Today's Wheel and Anchor webinar is all about our Iceland Circumnavigation trip that is happening in June of 2024. And so I'm delighted to have you along today to share with you about this great program. For those of you who are new, just a couple of words about Wheel and Anchor. And if you're not new, and if you've heard my spiel 100 times before, then you can put me on mute for a minute or two. Wheel and Anchor is a travel community consisting of Canadians, almost exclusively Canadians from all across the country, from coast to coast, people who have who identify with the way to travel, kind of the way I do, if I can say it that way. But I should say we all share this idea that travel is about exploration, but it's also about having a soft touch. It's about having a curiosity for local culture, traditions, and you know, the desire to sample and ask questions, but at the same time to be, you know, very respectful and you know, Canadian-like, if I can put it that way. And you know, it's a treat when you travel with people who all sort of jive in that way, if I can use that terminology. And we've really found in the last couple of years since COVID that you know, our members appreciate that that you can kind of let your guard down a little bit, and that is to put it in loose terms what we're about at Wheel and Anchor. And when you do that, you ultimately have a better experience. You connect with your fellow members on the trip. You just get a better sense of the destination, and that sort of falls into my philosophy about slower travel. You know, we don't actually do a lot of cruises at Wheel and Anchor unless they are very special ones like this, where it's like the best way to see Iceland because you know, it is a bit of a slow pace. You can access all these wonderful places from the comfort of your ship and not have to drive through all these crazy roads and all the rest of it. So, you know, we very consciously select the kind of places so that you can become well-traveled. That's one of our goals for members at Wheel and Anchor. So it's perfect timing, only 3 minutes late. Good morning, Paula.
Morning, my apologies.
Your timing is perfect. We just went to this slide. So I just want to briefly introduce our team today joining me on the webinar. So my name is Gordon. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor, and I know many of you who are in attendance on our webinar today. And I'm joined by Paula, who is part of my amazing team of trip specialists, Paula and Barb. If you haven't spoken to them before, I'm sure you will when you call in our office. And Paula is a much loved by our members, member of our team that really looks after everybody and makes sure that you get your questions answered and that you feel comfortable going on one of our trips. More than comfortable, but excited and so on. And our special guest today, Natasha Glameyer from Hamburg. Good morning or good afternoon to you, since we're
good morning and good afternoon, everyone.
So Natasha is with Iceland Pro Cruises. This is our partner who actually operates the ship. And Natasha, you've obviously been working with these guys for a long time, so you know Iceland as better than the Icelanders, I guess.
Yes, I wish I could say that, but yeah, unfortunately, but I learn Icelandic language more and more, and yes, I'm into the country every year a bit better.
Exactly. And so Natasha is going to share with her own experiences about what there is to see and do on this amazing trip. So between Natasha and I, we are going to be your guides today as we show you some amazing images from this incredible country of Iceland, where we're planning to go in June of next year. And so, yeah, let's dive right in. And as I say, we've got the one thing I love doing about a webinar. I love doing a webinar on Iceland is that the imagery is amazing. I mean, this is one of those places where if you had an excuse to buy a new camera, going to Iceland would be that excuse. Like, it is just nonstop amazing scenery. And so we're going to show you a few of those images today as I talk about the program. Just to give you the geographical perspective of things, Iceland, as you know, an island that is situated between Greenland and the northern part of Europe. Iceland, the old saying, right? Iceland is green and Greenland is ice. And it's, universally true. I mean, certainly Greenland is mostly ice, but Iceland has its share of glaciers and volcanoes and all that stuff, as we know. But, and green, yeah, there are parts of Iceland that are green, but a lot of it is rock. The landscapes are stunning. And as I say, we'll show you the images. We, of course, land at Reykjavik that you can access by flights directly from Toronto, and a few other cities in Canada fly direct either on Iceland Air, or I think even Air Canada is flying to Reykjavik these days, if I'm not mistaken, or Rouge.
Yes, on some days, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
They offer, yeah.
Yeah, there's a number of ways to get to Reykjavik. In any event, we're going to bring you in and have you arrive in the morning, and then we'll talk about that in a second. But we're going to spend the first few days in Reykjavik, and there's an amazing amount of things to see from Reykjavik. That's why we're going to spend the first 4 days there. That gives you the taste of Iceland, also gives you a chance to get over the jet lag, which is not so bad because there's only a few hours of time difference between Canada, depending on which time zone you're in. And then we embark on our voyage, which is going to take us, first of all, up the west coast and along the north coast, all the way around, and take you to some places that, again, if you had to get here overland, you would need a lot of time. You certainly wouldn't be able to do it in 8 days, which is the duration of the cruise. You'd probably need a month. So this is the journey. And so without further ado, let's get into the day-by-day itinerary. Of course, we are starting, as I said, in Reykjavik, where you can arrive. And I must admit, I have not done much of Iceland. That's partly why Natasha's going to do most of the talking about what there is to see and do on this cruise. But I have been to Reykjavik, and what an adorable little town. So when you fly from Canada, you typically arrive, well, not typically, I think you can only arrive first thing in the morning. Most flights are getting in sort of 5:36 in the morning. As in keeping with wheel and anchor tradition, we don't generally plan much for the first day because, you're flying on a red eye overnight, and it's you're feeling kind of groggy in the morning. And because also, as with any hotel, you're not generally able to check in the afternoon. One of the things that you could do, Natasha, you and I were discussing this, you can go to the Blue Lagoon, right? So you can land.
Exactly. Yes.
And they'll pick you up, right? Is that how it works?
Yes, we can do so. Yes, as Gordon said correctly, I would like to recommend the Blue Lagoon on the day of your arrival, because in order to use the time until the hotel check-in optimally, I recommend this Blue Lagoon very well. It's a thermal bath, and they are directly transferred offered from the airport, and also return transfers back to Reykjavik after the stay. And there are also big lockers to take your suitcases with you. And I think it's a great stay or a great start after arriving in Iceland to rest from your jet lag, and also to enjoy your first few hours in a warm bath under the open sky.
I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? You take a transatlantic flight, the first thing you go and sit in a hot thermal pool. Hello.
Exactly. Exactly.
And some people, because the Blue Lagoon is actually close to Keflavik Airport, and so some people who actually stopping over and have several hours connection will actually, as a stopover, go to the Blue Lagoon. I mean, I wish every city had that, but in any event, it's certainly what you can do in Reykjavik. Otherwise, you can come down and the city, that it's a city by it's really a town by I think North American standards, is very walkable, and it's Iceland, super safe. You can meander around and just take it in and breathe in that wonderful fresh Icelandic air on the first day, because the second day we're going to get right into it. And Natasha, you or one of your colleagues is going to take us around, and what can we expect to see as on our Reykjavik?
Yeah, on the second day, there is an opportunity to get to know the capital city with a city tour. So it's actually a small city with approximately 130,000 inhabitants, but it has a great flair. And even it is very small, the city always seems to be filled with a lot of life. You can look forward to, of course, the Harper Concert Hall with special reflecting windows that is also located near the old harbor where our ship also embarks. You can visit different shopping streets or the Hallgrímskirkja, the church of Reykjavik, which you can see at the image. And yes, you can also visit Langalauðr, which is a valley of sports and recreation directly located in the city center.
Yeah, so many things to see and do. And so, as I say, we're going to take you on a tour that's going to highlight some of those things, spend half a day. And then again, you've got more time at leisure to sort of explore and plan, because of course we have a whole free day allocated in Iceland as well, knowing that we have members that have different ideas on what they want to do, because there's all kinds of active type programs and activities that you can embark on, but you can also chill and enjoy some of the cultural elements of Reykjavik. The next day we head out on the Golden Circle tour, which is probably the most touristy thing to do in Iceland, but there's good reason for
Oh yes, it's a very famous bus tour. I would say the most famous bus, as you already said correctly. And you can explore the south of Iceland perfectly. You can visit Friedheima greenhouse, where you can learn about the magical methods of managing pests by using biological controls. So there are actually tomatoes growing directly in Iceland. So there are Icelandic tomatoes. And you can also visit the geyser geometrical area. This geyser shoots a column of water up to approximately 90 feet into the air every 7 minutes. And you can also look forward to the Gullfoss waterfall and also the Thingvellir National Park, where the American and Eurasian tectonic plates are pulling apart at a rate of a few centimeters per year.
Yeah, so lots to see. This is the most popular tour, but it's a must do. And so again, like if you look at the picture of the Gullfoss waterfall here, like it's yeah, you better make sure your memory card is empty on your on the tour of Iceland. As I say, we will we've allocated a free day, because I think again, you can go, I think you can even go kayaking in Reykjavik Harbor, if I'm not mistaken, or around that, or not far away.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there are different.
What would you recommend, for example, that somebody do on if they had a day completely at leisure?
Yes, you have a chance to explore the city center on your own at your own leisure and to do other excursions around Reykjavik. Every tour includes transfers from to hotels, so it is easily to explore the area outside the capital as well. But maybe you are interested in the National Museum of Iceland, or to participate in a small harbor tour, for example, kayaking, as you said correctly, or you can also have a relaxing day with a visit in the Sky Lagoon. This is another thermal bath located directly at the coast with sea view, and with a special offer of the 7 steps ritual, which includes, for example, a sea salt treatment or a Scandinavian sauna.
Well, sounds good to me. I mean, you could do a thermal bath every day, and if you're in Iceland, why wouldn't you? I mean, this is the geothermal energy basically powers the country.
That is correct. Yeah.
I'm like, when in Rome. So Sky Lagoon, another option. After that day, so as I say, the first 4 days we spend in Reykjavik, and then we embark on our amazing expedition ship. So tell us about the ship. I know I remember I met the owner, who is Danish, if I'm not mistaken. And some years ago, I did a webinar with him back, a couple of years ago before COVID. And he has such a passion for exploration and expeditions, and basically created or redesigned this ship specifically for this purpose. Tell us a little bit about the ship. And
yes. Yeah, our Sea Venture is a small ship with a space about 160 passengers, and it's incredibly agile, and therefore making a chance for a rare wildlife sighting and docking also in smaller harbors. The ship is 33 years old and was renovated in 2019. You can look forward to chef-prepared meals, bar staff by a professional bartender, a theater-style auditorium with presentations by local experts, and you can spend your time in our very cozy library with collection of books, and you can also use our pool and sauna gym with sea view.
Exactly. As you see here, there's an amazing sun lounge. So even though it's a small expedition ship, it has a lot of the features of that you'd find on a cruise ship. And, you know, don't ask me my opinion about cruise ships. Many of you know them already. But, you know, again, here's a ship with all the amenities, but it's small enough to be intimate. You know, so you get to know your fellow passengers, and also to be able to go into these ports without feeling like you're descending on the population, like you know, like anyway, I won't say it. I'll save the comparisons. There's a bunch of different cabins. The cabins are all super cozy, functional type cabins. Explain a little bit the difference between the cabins, just so our members have an idea of
yes. Yeah. All our cabins are outside cabins and offer private facilities and exterior views. We offer 7 different categories. Category 1 has 2 portholes. Category 2 to 5 have picture window. Cabins in category 6 will have a balcony, and category 7 are our 2 big suites. And our cabin are equipped with a double or twin beds, as well as private bathroom with a shower and a living area with a TV, wardrobe, and of course, a fridge.
Yeah, so the cabins are really comfy. And just to let you know, I mean, all this is in our program itinerary, which you will get with a copy of the replay of this webinar. We literally just put the ink is just drawing on it, as it were. So to let you know what how we've allocated the cabins on this, we have single cabins for those who wish to travel alone, that we have as good a price as we could get on level 1, but for double occupancy, we have cabins starting on at category 2. So cabins, as Natasha mentioned, from deck 2 up to, sorry, category 2 up to 5, which have picture windows, like the one I just showed you there. And for those who are looking for, you know, a little bit more space, a little outside space, balcony cabins, and of course a couple of suites. So all in all, you're going to be very well accommodated on the ship. And yeah, and then we're going to set sail, and our first stop will be on the south west coast, I guess you would say, of the island. And my Icelandic is not as good as yours. Grundarfjörður.
Yeah, but that spells correctly. That sounds great.
There you go. I'm getting better.
Yes, yeah. Before we go to our stops, I would like to inform you that we do offer shore excursion for every harbor we are visiting. Clients are free to explore on their own, but if you would like to see as much as possible of Iceland during your stay, I definitely recommend our shore excursions. Our excursions for 2024 are not bookable yet, but we do not expect many changes comparing to this year. So I would like to point out a special highlight of an excursion for every harbor we are now introducing.
Yeah, and there's, as Natasha mentioned, there's so how we set this up is we decided not to choose any shore excursions and to include them, because what we find is members all want to do something a little bit different, and they want to do something that's a little bit personal to them. We have members who are, you know, not as interested in the more active type excursions, and some of them involve, you know, a bit of hiking and walking, and, you know, sort of getting doing a lot more physical activity. Others are more leisurely by bus and cultural aspects. And so, and then we have stuff like there's even a scenic flight that you can take at one of the stops. Natasha will tell us in a second. So we will provide information on what those excursions are. But as Natasha said, as of the date of publication, as of right now, we don't have all the details, but you can worry about that later. So yeah, tell us a little bit about our first stop at Grundarfjörður. What's your favorite thing to do? I mean, we won't go through all of the details, but what is the kind of thing that you would suggest here?
Yes, I would highly suggest the journey into the center of the Earth. That is a bus to explore the lava world of Iceland. So when we stop at Anastapi or at Grundarfjörður, that depends on the weather actually. That is why we have pointed out two different stays, but both harbors are located on the peninsula and called Snæfellsnes. And this peninsula is often also called Iceland in miniature because of this diverse landscapes. And during that stay, I would definitely recommend the bus tour center of the Earth.
Yeah, center of the everything. I mean, obviously, Iceland is about volcanoes and lava and glaciers and geysers and all the rest of it. So, you know, my recommendation as well, anything that allows some insight and explanation into the geothermal, the volcanic aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
So just give us a sense before we talk about our next stop at Ísafjörður. What does the average day on the ship look like? So, you know, you get up in the morning, obviously there's a breakfast buffet that's served in the dining room. And then the shore excursions typically go out in the morning after breakfast. What's the flow of the day?
The flow of the day is that some excursions are taking place in the morning or before midday, and some excursions also take place in the afternoon. That also depends on the weather. If the weather is not so good as expected, an excursion can also be postponed from the morning into the afternoon. That is also possible, and the clients on board will get a daily program every evening, and this program contains every steps for the next day.
Exactly. So we play it a little bit by ear on the weather because you never know what it's going to do and how it's going to play out. So, and obviously the captain is trying to enable everybody to enjoy as much of Iceland as they can. So tell us about Ísafjörður and what we can expect to see there.
Yes, Ísafjörður is a lovely idyllic town in the West Fjords, and it has yaw-dropping views of dramatic fjords, and it's really breathtaking impressions that are waiting for you. And I can recommend the bus tour Nature and Culture of the West Fjords. You can visit the salty factory where they had harvest sea salt using geothermal energy, and you have also the opportunity to stop at the local chocolate factory where you can get a taste of Icelandic chocolate.
Sounds good. So Icelandic chocolate, how would you describe Icelandic chocolate? Is it like Swiss chocolate?
It's hard to describe, but I think it's very intense. The taste is very intense, I guess. And yes, and I think yes, strangely, it tastes much better when you eat it directly in Iceland. I don't know why, but if you have a souvenir like that, if you taste it at home, I was like, oh, why it tasted so much better when I was in Iceland.
Like drinking wine, Iceland's like drinking wine in Italy, right?
Yeah, that's correctly, yeah.
The other thing about Ísafjörður is I understand this is the opportunity to see some of the West Fjords as well, which is a pretty remote region of Iceland. Is that right?
That is right, yeah. So the pictures you can see, they are very impressive. When I first visited the West Fjords, I was overwhelmed. It was amazing to see all the mountains and the small fjords. It's very lovely to see.
Yeah, it's well, every part of Iceland is picturesque, but the West Fjords are among the most amazing.
Yes.
And because they're so inaccessible. One of our members, Wendy, asked a good question that I thought is relevant for now. During the daily schedule, is there typically a briefing the evening before about the next day, or
Yes, there is. The daily program will be hanged out officially at some of our decks, and also every client will receive a copy of the daily program in their cabin, so they can look through it. If they have any further questions regarding to that, they are welcome to go to our expedition counter. Yeah, we are always happy to help with any questions.
Right. So somebody is there from the expedition team to
Mhm.
as you say, inform about the specifics and the weather and what's
Mhm.
required and so on and so forth. Cool. We're continuing our journey now, heading north and up towards the north side of the island, and we arrive at Flat Island.
Flathead, yeah. So yes, it's described as, yeah, it can be translated as flat island. So that is Flatey, that is near Husavik, and we will arrive this island in the morning, and it's a natural heaven for bird life and a home of the Arctic tern and puffins, and this is the place we will practice our zodiac for the first time, because our sea venture cannot dock directly at Flatey. So then you can have the opportunity to have a fun zodiac ride.
Amazing. Well, and I like excursions or that are by zodiac, because again, it makes you feel like you're, you get off the ship on the zodiac and you're racing around. Well, not racing, cruising around.
Exactly.
It's here as well that I think there's an option. This is the place for the stop where there's a scenic flight over the northern part of Iceland. Is that right?
That is right. Yeah.
And so that is that by airplane or by helicopter?
That is by helicopter.
Yeah, so that's a helicopter flight. So that's one of the more exciting excursions that we can
Yes, definitely. I was taking place at this excursion by myself last year, and it was absolutely amazing. You can get very great impressions for that, and it is also very great to take pictures. And yes, of course, when we arrive in Husavik, I would also like to recommend our whale watching tours.
Exactly. So that afternoon, I understand the ship continues on to Husavik, where we'll spend the evening and then the whole next day.
Yeah,
And
that's correct.
this is the whale. I mean, you could do whale watching from Reykjavik on the free day. And so those who are really keen on seeing whales, and Iceland has a lot of whales, but like everything in nature, I always say, you never know. There's no guarantee to see them. But it's the place that people go to see whales. Yeah.
Yes, but I was very lucky last year. I was also participating at the whale watching tour on the rib boats last year, and I had the chance to see 7 or 8 whales for that tour. So
wow.
it was a great experience.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, well, whale watching is, and again, to do it in the context of Iceland, where there's, it's just fantastic. Here in Husavik as well, I understand you can visit. There's an excursion to Lake Mývatn, is it?
Yes, it's the Mývatn nature bath. So there's also a thermal bath between overwhelming landscape. So it's much like the Sky Lagoon, but if you participate in that too, you have also the advantage of the great landscape near Husavik, the north of Iceland. So it's very great.
This is I mean, I'm a big fan of any of these thermal baths, but I can just imagine sitting out there amongst the rugged natural landscape with nobody in sight. And well, other than those who are participating with you on the trip in the nature baths, just amazing. We continue further along the north coast and now head up in the northeast. Seyðisfjörður, my God.
Yes, Seyðisfjörður, right. Yes, Seyðisfjörður is also a nice small village on the west coast, and during this day, I definitely recommend the bus tour to the northern capital. And this is a half-day excursion, and it combines scenic highlights, including one of the spectacular waterfalls in Iceland, the Godafoss, and you can also have a relaxing city tour.
Yeah, amazing. And we say a city tour, but you can see kind of in the picture.
Yes, exactly. But so we can rather say a village tour, but a city tour sounds more slightly, so to say.
These are the things that I think are really the most interesting, because you really get a sense, I mean, of the local Icelandic culture and to find out how people live in these remote communities along the coast of Iceland, where that are just sort of, it's it's totally fascinating, barring then the amazing landscape that you get. Then talking about landscape and scenery, Djúpifogur. So this is where we get to see some of Iceland's glaciers, yeah?
That is correct. Yes, it's a small fishing village, and it is today's starting point to explore Vatnajökull Glacier, which you can see at the picture. And here I can point out many other options. You can go to a 4-wheel drive jeep tour or take a boat trip in the Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon. There are many options to enjoy the glaciers.
Yeah. The Glacier Lagoon, for me, is I love it when you're cruising around, I guess, in the Zodiac, or you have a special boat, because there's a lot of icebergs in there, right? It's basically like an ice lagoon, yeah?
Yeah, it's a great feeling of adventure.
And is it, do you know, is it likely, well, I mean, you never really know with the glacier, but the glacier will obviously calve. So this is where you might see pieces of iceberg falling off the glacier into the lagoon, yeah?
Yes, there is a high chance to see that, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you should prepare your cameras for that.
That's one of those ones where you have to hold your camera still, wait and wait and hope.
Exactly.
that you might catch it in the moment. We then head down to the Westman Islands, which again are sort of like, well, as I understand it, this is another part of volcanic interest, right? There's another lava.
That is correct. Yes, the Westman Islands, they were formed by submarine volcanic eruptions around 10,000 years ago. And you can go ashore on Heimaey. That is the only inhabited island. And this was actually half buried, remained from a violent in 1973 eruption. So one part of the island is only 50 years old. And luckily, every islander has survived this eruption because of top organization of rescue troops. So luckily, there was a high chance to avoid many chaotics. And yes, I would definitely also recommend the bus tour Pompeii of the North, where you can get to know Heimaey a little more better, the major island of Westman Island, and you can see the volcanic crater and houses half buried from the volcanic eruption from 1973. And it's definitely a unique and a fascinating landscape with diverse bird life, and this is the highlight of the end of our Iceland circumnavigation.
Yeah, exactly. So from there, obviously, we complete the circumnavigation by traveling westbound along the south coast and end up back in Reykjavik, where we have to say goodbye to our ship and goodbye to Iceland. Or you can, tack on a few extra days. And I know that, we encourage members, come a day or two early or stay on a day or two. It's certainly worthwhile. There's so much that you can do in Iceland. I mean, you could spend a whole month here.
Yeah, that's correct. Often on the day of disembarkation, the flights departures very lately in the afternoon. So you will have the chance to use our free of charge luggage store at the pier, where you can store your luggage and explore the Reykjavik city without your heavy suitcases until your transfer starts back to the airport. So that is also a last chance to enjoy Reykjavik for the last day.
It's a very good point. So you actually get a whole other day
because
the flight later on in the afternoon. And otherwise, of course, if you didn't avail yourself of the Blue Lagoon at the beginning, you can always go back and do that before you get on the flight.
Yes, exactly. That is also possible.
And after, because I love sitting in these thermal baths. Let me give you a few particulars about the trip. And again, all of the details will be in our program itinerary that's going to be emailed out to you soon. So just to give you a little bit of an indication of pricing for this program. So this is for the land and cruise components of the trip. You can see the different categories there. We have starting, these are early bird prices. So in this case, we've just set prices. They've been generous enough, Natasha and her team, to offer a special deal up until the 1st of December, because by the time you get to December, the cruise starts to get really busy. So the prices after the 1st of December jump by about roughly 1,500 Canadian dollars. So it's a good idea to get in early. And you never know, the ship may be full anyway. Iceland is, as usual, as popular as ever. But this gives you a sense of the different categories. In addition to that, the suites are not shown here. So if we have members that are interested in a suite, that's category 7, I think. They are on request. And so if you're somebody that is looking for that extra space, then let us know early, because the suites tend to be the first to go. That gives you a sense of that. And of course, our program inclusions, and I won't go through them in great detail, but it's consistent with most of our trips. All of your ground transportation, accommodation at a lovely hotel in central Reykjavik, the accommodation there, the 8 nights aboard the cruise, and the sightseeing while on land. And then the shore excursions would be the only other thing that are that you have to look after as far as the land part of the program. And then, of course, obviously airfare and trip cancellation insurance. Those are the only things that we can help you facilitate, as with the shore excursions as well. So all of that is to be factored in. And so it's almost time to do our question and answer session, but I know that sometimes if you have questions specific to your own travel desires or whatever, please do drop a note to Paula or Barb, and or give us a call. We're happy to answer your questions as always. And in the meantime, let's field any questions that may have come in from members. Paula?
We've got quite a few here that are
Okay,
waiting to get answered. So I'll start at the top here. We had a member who was asking, with regards to the excursions, how can they know what options are available to them? When do they need to be booked, and how do they pay for these?
Yeah.
Yes, we always recommend to book the shore excursion approximately 4 weeks before departure, as we have lack of space for particular shore excursions. And the shore excursions are payable on board the Sea Venture in US dollars. They don't need to be paid in advance, because if the weather is unpredictable, some shore excursions need to be canceled, fortunately, but that is always free of charge due to weather. So that is always possible.
So we will supply a list of the shore excursions with as a supplement to our program itinerary as soon as they become available. So as you said, Natasha, we don't have the 2024 excursions nailed down yet, but I think they're coming out soon. Yeah.
Yes, they're coming out at least at the beginning of next year, but you are free to look at our shore excursions for this year, because we don't expect major changes, and our highlighting tours are always part of our plan. So you're very welcome to look at the shore excursions already for this year.
We'll put together a summary of those excursions and we'll send that out to members that are interested, so that you can get a heads up. And the moment they're able to book, particularly, the specialty ones, we will put our request in early, so we make sure that we're able to confirm you on all those excursions.
Definitely. Barb and I have that list of the 2023 excursions, so we can share that with anyone that's interested. Just reach out to either of us.
Fantastic.
Perfect. Another question here was with regards to what is the activity level range of the excursions and the terrain once members are on shore?
Yes, that depends on the type of shore excursions. We have a detailed description, which I would happy to forward you, which we use shoe icons to point out the difficult level. So we pointed out for every excursions what clothes you need to wear, and which feeling you would like to, and yes, if you can participate at the tour, even if you are not so good on foot, for example. Yes, we always take care of that, and yes, you can always see the difficult level due to shoe icons.
So Paul, we'll make sure that we have that information on our document. So let's just double check that on our And but there are varying levels of excursions, from quite easy to
Yeah.
hikes that are quite strenuous. So there's really something for everyone.
Yes, that's correct. In particular, the bus tours. If a person does not feel very well during the stay, they are welcome to wait in the bus, of course. That is also possible. And always our bus tours are less to walk very high paths. So if you like to have a bus tour, you have the high chance that you won't take too many ways to walk.
Fantastic. Yeah. That answers a secondary question, as we had a member who was interested in doing a little bit more active hiking or walks on them. So great to hear that there's a range for everyone. Couple more questions here with regards to the weather this time of year and what the sea conditions are like.
Yes, the sea conditions are very unpredictable. So as much as the weather in Iceland, unfortunately, but as you will travel in June, you will have a high chance of many sunny days, and you will also have the opportunity to enjoy the midnight sun during the month of June.
And what's the temperature is, I mean, Iceland sits in the Gulf Stream, but nevertheless, it's fairly far north. So, you know, my recollection is that days are fairly mild, but when we say mild, it would be what, maybe 20 degrees on a warm day in June. It doesn't get much warmer than that, yeah?
Maybe it's about 15 to 18 degrees, I will suggest. But yes, sometimes it can also climb over 20 degrees, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it could get even warmer, but be prepared in case it's more like 10 to 15 degrees in this climate. But June is, let's face it, it's about the best month to go, and also it's day. Really
yes, in compare with May, actually, of course, because at the moment we have unfortunately storm in Iceland right now, and in particular parts of Iceland we have also snow right now in May. So the June is a month you can have, you can definitely have more advantage to enjoy the weather in comparing to May.
Perfect. Question came in here from Jane with regards to if the ship offers Wi-Fi.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does free of charge Wi-Fi in particular areas, for example, our lounge or restaurants. And we do also offer different Wi-Fi in the cabin. And you can see that price lists on your cabin, actually, as this will be provided by the ship owner.
Fantastic. Wendy had a question here asking if there's an opportunity to go horseback riding.
Yes, there is an opportunity to go horseback riding, yes. So that is in Siglufjörður, for example, where you can enjoy the tour with horseback riding, and it's a very favorable tour to join.
Fantastic. Another question here has come in asking if the ports are mostly or all dry landings. None of them are a wet landing. Is that correct?
Yes, the ports are all dry landing, except Flatey, that is a so-called wet landing for the Zodiacs. But of course, if our ship cannot enter a docks due to high volume of other ships or something like that, we will practice the Zodiac as well. But the Zodiac tours are always free of charge, and they're always included. So if we like to practice Zodiacs more than we used to, it is always included the price. So that is an additional fun to ride.
Yeah, exactly. But they're pretty much all dry landings.
Yes, pretty much all dry landing. Yeah.
Perfect. One last question here was with regards to who will be the host, Wheel and Anchor host on this trip, Gordon?
Okay, well, we haven't done our host schedule for next year, so we're not sure yet. It could be me, could be Lucky. I'm just kidding. Or one of our other amazing hosts. Not sure yet. This program will be hosted subject to us getting a minimum of, I think it's 12 people, if I'm not mistaken. So we are planning to have a host on the trip, on the whole trip. Otherwise, it could be just for the land portion. It all depends on how you decide to join us next year. So that's the plan. Yeah. Good deal.
I think we've come to the end of questions at this point in time, and otherwise members know that they can reach out to Barb and I.
Yes, exactly. Please do drop us a note with any other questions that you may have. I just want to extend my thanks to Natasha for joining us and providing some amazing insight into all the things there are to see and do in Iceland. So thank you for that. And we appreciate that very much. And yeah, we have that's it for webinars this week, but next week we've got lots more in store. So join us next week for Norway on Tuesday, and Australia as well is happening next week. And if we don't have all that info, just look out for our newsletter coming out on Saturday, and the links to all the webinars, if you haven't already signed up, will be in there. Thanks for joining us. Have yourself a great day, and I look forward to catching up with you on another webinar very, very soon. Take care.